It's magic, pure magic, witchcraft, dare I say. Happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Kristen, and if you're new here, this is a corner of the internet where I come at you every other week or so and share what I've been making. I do a lot of knitting, I do a lot of crochet, a lot of sewing, quilting. Lately, there's been a lot of bead weaving, so, you know, if you are multi-craftual, if you like making all the things, you're in a good place. Gather around, grab a cup of something. I've got some coffee here in this pretty freaking awesome mug that my in-laws got me. It says Hocus Pocus, I need this to focus, and boy do I need this to focus, because we've got a lot to get through today. Not only is it Halloween, my favorite holiday of the year. I'm just dressed up as my spooky old self today, so didn't really put a lot of thought into my costume this year, but you know, honestly, it's Halloween 24/7 in my brain all the time, so you know, just jazzing it up today. This week is a very special episode because Voolenvine Yarns, my hand-dyed yarn company, is celebrating 10 years. It's been 10 years since I went full-time with my business, and I want to celebrate it with you guys. And to do that, I thought I would do an Ask Me Anything episode. So I went to Instagram, I went to the community tab in YouTube, and I asked you to shoot me your questions, and boy did you guys deliver, because we've got there were so many questions. I did handpick a few because I feel like there were a couple of repeats, but so many great questions. You know, unfortunately we're not going to get through all of them today, but I felt like the heavy hitters, you know, we're gonna get to some good ones. But before we get to the questions, I did want to update you on what I've been making. Last week I pulled out all of my unfinished objects that have just been hibernating, that have been languishing, and we went through them. And I decided what I'm going to finish and what I'm not going to finish. Thank you so much to everybody for your input, your 2 cents. You know, I did speak with members and shared the projects that I am going to prioritize finishing. So there is a list. There is a list of projects that I'm, you know, once I'm done with the ones that I'm going to share with you now, I'm going to get to that list and finish those projects. But, you know, in the meantime, I do want to get these off my plate. So this first one that I'm going to show you is my Stromboli top, which is a wonderful pattern by Caitlin Hunter, which is a wonderful pattern by Caitlin Hunter. This pattern looks super complicated because of all the detail that's happening in there and the texture, but believe it or not, this is all lace and it's incredibly intuitive. I'm, you know, just flying by with it. Granted, this is probably like week 4 that I've been knitting on it. It's just, you know, whenever I have time to sit down and work on it. But again, it's a very intuitive pattern. I have the lace chart memorized in my head, so I can just, you know, chill out with a YouTube video or a Netflix show and go at it. So I think the thing that's slowing me down a bit on this is because I'm actually knitting more pattern repeats than the pattern actually calls for, because I'm using a different type of yarn that the pattern calls for, and unfortunately it's not knitting as long as I think the pattern requires the body to be. So this is knit from the bottom up, so I can't really try it on other than, let me see if I stand up. Like if I were to try this on right now, it's beyond crop top length. So I think I'm gonna finish up this last repeat and start separating for the sleeves. So yay! Yeah, that's where I am with that. Really wonderful pattern, highly recommend it. Again, if you love lace knitting, if you're looking for an intuitive pattern, this is definitely up your alley. So there's that. And the next pattern, I don't think I shared this with you guys yet, but I was naughty a few weeks ago, and like right after I did that episode where I pulled out all my whips, I went right ahead and cast on a new pattern. Guys, this is how I roll. What can I say? But I cast on the Ava Cardigan by Petite Knit. Yes, another Petite Knit pattern. And this just came out of purely wanting that black cardigan that I've been talking and yapping about for years and never got around to knitting because of all the other new and shinies that I wanted to cast on. Well, I actually went to Michael's and they had this really lovely, lovely yarn. This is the yarn. It's Loops and Threads Heather Tweed. It's a polyester blend. So here you go. and it just has this really, really lovely, floofy, soft halo to it. Again, it's their heather tweed, and it is 66% polyester, 30% acrylic, and 4% wool. So there is a little bit of wool content in here, but oh my goodness, this is so soft. And, you know, it's just a very simple cardigan, you know, nothing fancy. The only thing that I did do to modify the pattern is that I actually joined it in the round and added steeking stitches, just so I could just continue knitting in the round as opposed to knitting back and forth, because, you know, while I don't mind purling, it does slow me down. And given my agenda, given my knitting and crochet agenda, and the fact that I want to get things off the needles, I figured this would just kind of speed things up just a little bit, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I've steeked cardigans in the past before. It's not as scary as it seems. I will link to a video of me showing you actually how I go about steeking a cardigan. I would do a tutorial or just a demo of how I steek this one, but because it's black, it's not really going to show up well on camera. So I'll link to that older video that I did, but it's the same concept. Once I'm done knitting the body, I'm just going to cut straight up the center of these steeking stitches, and don't worry, it's not going to unravel. The stitches are not going anywhere. But what will happen is that because of the nature of stockinette, it's going to want to roll up onto itself, and I'm going to roll it to the back, the wrong side of the cardigan, and just tack those edges down with a whip stitch. And it's super brilliant, guys. Super easy, super brilliant. It's magic, pure magic, witchcraft, dare I say. So that is the Ava cardigan. Really interesting construction too. Again, you really can't see it, but the shoulders, you know, would I recommend this for a newbie knitter? I feel like there are some nuances to it. There's a lot of picking up and knitting raw edges. So, you know, if you are comfortable with that and a little bit of spicy construction, you know, that's what you can expect, you know? All right, my friends, that is what I've been getting up to knit-wise as far as other crafty rabbit holes. I've been doing a lot of beading. I mean, we're still riding the beading wave, and I'm so enjoying it, and I do have some new bling to share with you. These are some earrings that I made, and another Potomac tutorial. They are wonderful, they are great. And this is the first time that I've bezeled a cushion bead. And what a cushion bead is, it's like a rivoli, and it's square shaped. And I think they call it a cushion because it looks like a little square throw pillow, if you will. So it's a little cushion. And in this tutorial, she shows you how to bezel a cushion gem. And, you know, this took me a couple tries, I'm not gonna lie, just to get the tensioning right, but we made it happen. It works, and it looks really, really pretty. I'm sorry, guys, I was not focusing well. But I am quite obsessed with these. Yeah, here's what it looks like on the back. And I bezeled it using a peyote stitch. So the cool thing about peyote stitch, it's very similar, dare I say, to crochet, because, you know, when you're making a granny square and you need to make an angle, especially with bezeling this pattern right here, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but to make those angles, it's just like making an angle when you're making a granny square. So instead of, you know, like 2 stitches in that one chain loop, if you will, you are making a herringbone stitch. So instead of putting 1 bead on, you're putting 1 peyote bead, 1 peyote bead, 1 peyote bead. When you get to that corner, you're putting 2 peyote beads. And when you put 2 peyote beads in a space, that is called a herringbone stitch. So that is what creates those corners and angles. And you can use it for any type of peyote bead weaving project if you want to create an angle. So really, really cool. And I really love the way these turned out. I'm definitely going to be making some more of these. Yeah, but getting that tension right makes all the difference. So yeah, I've got myself some new bling, guys. Okay, so that's all the creative content that I have to share with you this week. So let's get to the meat of this episode, shall we? Let's get to some questions because we've got a lot. Okay, just a quick disclaimer. Whenever I do these AMA Ask Me Anything episodes, I usually get the same type of question every time. So I am, for new viewers, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm so happy you're here. I'm just gonna quickly answer some of these, repeat questions just to kind of refresh, remind you guys, how I got here, if you will, and what it is I do and yada, yada, all that fun stuff. So, just a couple of questions about that. This question comes from Danny Teagues. I hope I pronounced that right. 6105. And they want to know, is this your full-time job, podcaster / yarn dyer? If so, what made you leave your previous job behind? So, okay, thank you so much for that question. Yes, hand dyeing yarn is my full-time job, hence I'm celebrating 10 years of full-time hand dyeing. And before that, I was working full-time as a video editor. So, office job, 9 to 5, well, more like 9 to 7, sometimes 8 o'clock. There were long hours. And, it was a fun job. I got to interview a lot of celebrities, a lot of bands. But, we were small staffed, and suddenly I found myself wearing a lot of hats. This one included. So, I had a lot of responsibility and, a lot of, dealing with people, personalities, scheduling. I just found myself spread too thin, and it took a toll on me. I was very stressed all the time, and it wasn't fun for me anymore, and it was just not what I signed up for, So while I was working at this job, I also had this YouTube channel. I was knitting, knitting was basically my outlet. It was my creative outlet. I would wake up early, knit in the morning before I'd go to work, and when I come home, it was the one thing that I'd look forward to doing. And one day I took a sick day. I call it a sick day, but really it was a mental health day. We've all taken those. Come on, guys. I watched a YouTube video, my friend's YouTube video actually, and she did a whole tutorial on how she dyes yarn. She was dyeing yarn full time at the time as well. And I was like, you know what? That looks like a lot of fun. Let me give it a go. And long story short, I fell in love with the process. I started dyeing yarn. I started sharing it on my YouTube channel, and the skeins, they started piling up, and I didn't know what to do with them. And I was like, there's no way I can knit with all of these. So I put it out there to my viewers. I was like, if I list these on Etsy, would you be interested? And the response was amazing. So, again, long story short, fast forward, I, was going to work still and dyeing yarn when I got home on the weekends. Guys, I was I was burning the candle at both ends, let me tell you. But I truly loved dyeing yarn, and I wanted to make it work. So, I kept my full-time job until I had enough, saved up, until I paid off all my college loans. I just wanted to make sure I was secure enough. So once I was able to match what I was making at my office job, I decided to walk into my boss's office and give my 2 weeks notice. And the rest is history. I mean, it was truly the best decision that I ever made. And I cannot believe that I'm still here 10 years later, still dyeing yarn, still playing with color, and just creating beautiful colorways to share with you guys. And it means so much. I don't know what else to say. It's a dream come true, guys. So, yay! That's the story of how I got to where I am today. So. Yes, moving along. Rebecca Roy 3751 wants to know, what is your favorite thing about owning a yarn dyeing business? What is your least favorite? Another great question. So my favorite thing about owning my own yarn business is that I am a one-woman show. I work from home. I get to work from home. I have my own dye studio. I make my own schedule. It's the best. Like I don't have a commute. I can just stay put, wake up when I want. But again, the downside of that is that I have trouble knowing when to stop. So personal life and business tend to overlap, there's no like end of day type of thing. There's always something that needs to get done. So, if I'm done dyeing yarn, I come up here with the intention of crafting, but then I'm sitting in front of my computer and I get an email from a customer, or just like answering comments from, YouTube. It's a never ending thing. So not knowing when to just put the brakes on and stop before I burn out, that's kind of the downside of, being my own boss and running my own business. And a lot of people say, like, oh, why don't you hire somebody, get some help. And, I've tried it in the past and it just didn't work out for me. I'm an introvert. I like my solitude, and I feel like I'm more productive, almost to a fault, when when I'm, working alone, but that's just how I enjoy working. So thank you so much for that question. Missouri Makes asks, I think she meant to say, who has been your favorite designer over the years? If you could only choose one thing to knit for the rest of your life, what would it be? Okay, wow. Ooh, so many designers. I mean, my favorite designers would have to be, well, I can't just pick one, but I would say, okay, we'll go with top three. So my first favorite designer has to be Helen Stewart, not only because I've collaborated with her on several projects. I've dyed yarn kits for some of her mystery knit-alongs in the past, and she's just a pleasure and a joy to work with. I mean, all good things to say about Helen Stewart. And second of all, I truly enjoy her patterns. Every pattern she designs, it's intuitive, it's relaxing, it's, oh my gosh, she's my go-to for whenever I'm just, in a knitting rut and I just need something to knit. I go to her Ravelry shop and I see what she's got and see what jumps out at me, because I know 9 out of 10 I'm going to enjoy knitting whatever she designs. So even with mystery knit-alongs, because I tend to avoid mystery knit-alongs like the plague. Like, I've knit some Stephen West mystery knit-alongs, and as much as I love Stephen West patterns, they're fun, engaging, and super creative. 9 out of 10, I'm not going to want to wear the finished object. But when it comes to Helen Stewart patterns, I love her aesthetic. It just matches whatever I've got going on here. So love her patterns. Caitlin Hunter, I've knit several of her patterns as well. I just love a good oversized sweater, especially with a little color work thrown in. I know her patterns aren't for everybody, but just her style and aesthetic when it comes to pullovers and, like cardigans, I'm all about Caitlin Hunter patterns. So, there's still some of her patterns that I want to knit. They're still on my Ravelry queue, but love her patterns. I think those are the two main designers that I typically gravitate towards. Joji Locatelli. Yes, Joji Locatelli. I love her patterns as well. They're again, just very, very simple, very intuitive and easy breezy. That's how I would describe her patterns. Just very easy breezy, very similar to Helen Stewart's patterns, where there's not drama. There's no drama involved. I'm never stumped when I knit a Joji pattern. They're very straightforward, very well written. Yeah, so those are my three favorite designers. I feel like there's another one or a few more that I'm not mentioning, but if they come to me later while I'm editing this, I'll pop them on the screen. But those are my favorite designers. And the other part of your question was, if you could only choose one thing to knit for the rest of your life, what would it be? Gosh, wow. Socks, probably, because I can knit them without having to look down at my hands. Yeah, it's like my go-to pattern for vacation, for when I'm hanging out with friends and I want to engage in the conversation. My hands can keep busy and I can converse with people. Yeah, so, and plus you can use practically any kind of yarn to knit a sock. Yeah, anyway, that's my answer. Thank you for that. The next question is from Ashy Kissick, 7825. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But she says, what is your favorite and least favorite things to make? Another great question. My favorite thing to make. I like to make a lot of things. I mean, I can't just name one thing I like to make, but lately, I like to make bling. I like to make sweaters. Love to make sweaters. Yeah, socks. I like to make it all. I mean, I like to make quilts. I like to make granny squares. I like, there's no wrong or right answer here. So my least favorite thing to make, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there are certain techniques or steps that I don't really enjoy making. Like when it comes to quilting, I'm realizing I don't like the quilting aspect of quilting. Like actually, because that is very time consuming. So, once you have your quilt sandwich, it's time to actually quilt the quilt. And that part, I'm not a fan of. I would prefer to send it out and have someone else do it for me. I'm all about the piecing and binding. I love binding quilts. It's so satisfactory. Yeah, it just scratches an itch. And when it comes to crochet, I will say that was not meant to rhyme, but when it comes to crochet, granny squares. I love a granny square, but I don't like changing the colors. I don't like weaving in the ends, and it's very fiddly, and that is time consuming. You know, when it comes to crochet, I just like to go. So yeah, changing color when it comes to crochet. I do like weaving in ends. I mean, there's something very chill about finishing a project, a knitting project, and weaving in ends. You know, because you can just, you know, again, put on a podcast, an audiobook, watch a show, and just go at it. So that part I don't mind. But as far as anything else, I don't know. Yeah, there's not too much I don't like. I thought about something. Tunisian crochet. Tunisian crochet, it turns out I am not a fan of. I mean, maybe I need a little bit more practice. Maybe I need to revisit at some point. I tried making 2 projects using Tunisian crochet and it just wasn't for me. I just, yeah, didn't click. It didn't click for me. The other thing that I will say that I'm not a huge fan of, that's not really for me, is foundation paper piecing. It's a quilting technique where you're basically stitching your fabric to a piece of paper to create a special kind of interesting effect with the fabric. It gets you all these kind of interesting angles that you can't really achieve with regular quilt piecing, if that makes any sense. And my brain just doesn't work that way. It gets confused. So you've got to kind of mentally flip your brain when you're working with foundation paper piecing, and it's frustrating. I get angry. And when that happens, it's not worth it. So no foundation paper piecing for me and no Tunisian crochet. Maybe somewhere down the line we'll revisit, but today is not the day for those techniques. Olivia Lynn 5688 asks, are there any crafts or fiber arts you want to try but haven't yet? Seems like you've tried them all. You think? Yeah, I have no self-control when it comes to trying new crafts. The one craft that comes to mind that I have not tried yet is bobbin weaving, and I have no desire to give that a go. That just looks a little too complicated, and again, knowing the way my brain works, I'm not going to enjoy it. So bobbin weaving, probably not for Kristen. Let me see. You know, I've dabbled with cross stitch. I've dabbled with embroidery. I do love with all my heart. I love bead embroidery, but not, you know, floss embroidery. That, I don't know. I don't have the patience for it. And with cross stitch, it's a little too monotonous. You're making the same stitch with different colors, yes, but it's just not interesting for me. I feel like I need something else. I've tried pottery when I was younger. I don't like the way clay makes my hands feel, pottery clay in specific, but I will say that lately I have been getting into bead weaving and beading and wire wrapping, and then just recently, guys, you're gonna think I'm totally insane. I'm slowly dipping my toes into polymer clay bead making. So polymer clay has been purchased, some additional tools have been purchased, and I'm going to be dipping my toes into making polymer clay beads, because you can do a lot with polymer clay apparently. I went down the rabbit hole, I looked up some YouTube videos, and I'm gonna be having so much fun, guys. Watch this space. Watch this space. That's all I can say. So I'll leave you with that. That's pretty much it for crafts. Let's move along to some more like personal lifestyle stuff. So Becky Gwynn, is that your name? 2107 asks, are you glad you moved out of the city? What do you miss about the city? Cool, awesome question. So if you don't know, about 2.5 years ago, my husband and I moved from Brooklyn to Westchester. So total change, you know, from living in the city to suburban living. And I have to say, guys, I never thought I would hear these words coming out of my mouth, but I don't miss it. I don't miss Brooklyn at all. I mean, there's, you know, I miss the restaurants. I miss, you know, when I was younger, like I enjoyed the nightlife and everything, but I love living here. It is so quiet. It is so peaceful. There's so much greenery. And we're still close to things, you know, to civilization. Like I can walk to a restaurant, I can walk to the train station and get into the city still. So we're close by to a lot of, you know, there's a lot here for us. And to answer another person's question, Jessica Leela 3712, she asks, did you ever get your driver's license? Yes, I did. Yes, I did, guys. I got it last spring. And oh my gosh, another thing that I never thought I would enjoy, but I love driving so much. It is so fun. But yeah, I just, ripped it off like a Band-Aid. I went to driving school. I, got my permit, rode in the car with Dennis, and, I learned, it took a while, but I got there. I got my license, and I'm so proud of myself. 40 years old, never too late to learn something new, let me tell you. But I, again, like I love driving. I love going from A to B and, just being here. It's, again, so peaceful. And I have a really, really wonderful group of knitting friends. Thanks to, I have to say, like, this YouTube channel, I have to thank, because, it just opened so many doors for me. Like when I came here, I had several people reach out to me like, hey, welcome to Westchester. I heard you moved to Portchester. I'm actually close by. Do you want to meet up at a yarn shop? Do you want to meet for coffee? And I now have this truly wonderful group of women that I get together that I'm so lucky and excited to call my friends now. It's just, it's great. I love it here. So thank you so much for that question. But, Brooklyn, yeah. I mean, I was born in Brooklyn, so, my heart will always be there. And, Dennis and I, we do go back from time to time. We go to our old haunts, go to some of our favorite restaurants. But the noise, the grittiness, the hustle and bustle, I don't miss it. I feel like my blood pressure has just gone down significantly since I moved out here. So yeah, that's my answer to that. Katie Ann Cook, 2324, asks, great question. She wants to know, what are your favorite musicians and what you've been listening to this year? So, okay, guys, I grew up on 90s alternative grunge. So, I love, my favorite band of all time, Smashing Pumpkins. Die-hard fan. I love them. I saw them live on their Adore tour, but I also love Garbage. I love Hole, Nirvana, Foo Fighters. I saw those guys live too at one point. Dennis and I actually subscribe to Sirius XM satellite radio, so anytime we're driving anywhere, we have the Lithium channel on all the time. So that's the channel where they play all the 90s alternative rock grunge. So, check it out if you have Sirius XM. It's so good. I mean, just so much nostalgia. But lately, I have been riding hard on the Taylor Swift bandwagon, guys. I'm a total Swiftie. I love her music. I can't get enough of it. I would love to go to an Eras Tour concert, but, I got bills to pay. So unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. But love me some Taylor Swift. Judge all you want. I also love Olivia Rodrigo. She's really fun. And lately, I have to say, The Last Dinner Party. They're an all-female band, and the lead singer, she's got a very kind of like operatic, very dramatic operatic voice, and I love it. Very similar to, I wouldn't say like the female version of Muse. Yeah, but if you love musicals, it's kind of like that type of rock drama, So if that's something that resonates with you, do check it out. Who else? There's somebody else that, oh, yes, Chapel Roan. I do love me some Chapel Roan. Cannot get enough. Especially, guys, like working out. So good. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Oh, this is a good question. Cara Fernalia. You asked quite a few questions. She wants to know, how has the industry changed in the last 10 years? What's your perspective on it? That is a great question. So the industry, meaning the yarn dyeing industry. So I feel like when I started dyeing yarn, there were hand dyers out there, but not as many as there are now. I feel like the yarn dyeing community has just blew up, and now it's an oversaturated market. I'm not gonna lie. It's, everyone and their monkey's uncle is a yarn dyer. It feels like everyone's a DJ. But, if you are thinking about dyeing yarn, I would not let that stop you from trying. I feel like it's wonderful that there's so many yarn dyers out there. It means that there's a need for yarn dyers. There's a market for it. And everyone has something to bring to the table, They have their own aesthetic, own inspirations, own techniques and styles. I mean, it's so wonderful. So, that's, if anything, it's just you know, opened the door for so much more creativity and options out there, if that makes any sense. It does make it harder to stand out. You're basically like a needle in a haystack, but if you know, figure out your branding, you know, your aesthetic and your marketing tactics, you know, I think it is possible. It is possible to stand out, you know, and figure out your ideal client. Which is another question that Cara Fernalia, I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm sorry if I butchered that. But it's another question she asked. She says, "How did you figure out what your vibe was?" This has always been my vibe. I've always been into dark, spooky things, and you know, it's just playing that up. You know, when it comes to business, like working with it. You know, infusing that inspiration, that vibe into what you create, and you know, the rest will follow, I feel like. Does that make any sense? Another business related question, Sci-Fi Carpi wants to know, what is the biggest lesson you've learned during these 10 years? So many lessons, guys. I feel like the biggest one that I've learned is, you know, I'm not for everybody. I can't please everybody. If you try to make everyone happy and try to appeal to everybody, then you're appealing to no one, essentially. So, you know, I feel like just being true to myself, being authentic, and then also the big one. I feel like this is the biggest lesson that I had to learn, is just to say no more often. Too often I've wanted to people please everybody. I mean, I am a recovering people pleaser. In the past, I've just, you know, said yes to everybody because, yeah, I don't want anyone to be mad at me or disappointed with me. But at the end of the day, again, you cannot make everybody happy. People are going to be disappointed with you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I am not responsible for other people's feelings or reactions. The only thing I can do is, you know, speak my truth. So, and that comes in life and in business. So, you know, I feel like that's been my biggest takeaway out of all these 10 years. So I hope that answers your question. All right, guys, I am going to two more questions, then I'm going to wrap things up. Emily, I think it's Emily B asks, what's your favorite knit you've ever made? Oh gosh, you know, I have to be honest, guys. My favorite makes are probably the things that I wear the most, and it can be as simple as a black hat. Like last year, I knit one of Petite Knit's, what is it, the Oslo hat? Easily one of my favorite makes because I wear it so much. I want to say Caitlin Hunter's Birkin pullover. I wear that sweater so often. I just love it. So yeah, I think the Birkin is right up there. Has to be hands down one of my favorite makes that I've made. I also made the Threatmuir by Isolde Teague, which I wear quite often every winter. That was a green pullover with some color work on the yoke. I mean, that gets a lot of wear from me. And then I want to say those three get the most wear from me. So yeah, those are the ones that come to mind. I mean, of course, I'm looking at, you know, my unfinished objects over there and their project bags, and I'm thinking the one I'm probably going to be the most proud of is the fruit garden blanket. That is a crochet project that has yet to be completed. It will be completed at some point, probably not in the near future, but at some point I will finish her. Okay, one more for the road. Favorite palette cleanser project when you want something simple after a tough project, asks Tony Guerres. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Again, I'm butchering all the names today. I apologize in advance. Favorite palette cleanser project? That would have to be socks. Hands down, socks, just because they're so easy. Again, I can go on autopilot with them. I don't have to think. I can pick a fun yarn color and just watch the colors knit up and be surprised with all the speckles. Anyway, socks are a lot of fun. I went through a phase where I just wasn't knitting socks for a while, but you know, lately I've been dipping my toes, pun totally unintended, into knitting socks again, and you know, I miss it. I truly miss socks, and they make for great palette cleansers. Woo! Okay, my friends, thank you so much for all those wonderful questions. Again, if I didn't get to your question, I apologize. I don't have all the time in the world, but hopefully I will get to them at a later date down the road. If you're still here, Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm putting out videos for your viewing pleasure every other week. And if you would like to support this channel and get a bonus vlog from yours truly every single week. Every week I publish a bonus vlog called A Waffle, which is where I just waffle on about what's happening behind the scenes, life-wise, craft-wise. It's very casual. Just, you know, grab a cup of something and hang out with me because, again, I only publish these videos every other week. So again, if you just can't get enough of yours truly, consider becoming a member. There's a join button right below this video or on the main page of this YouTube channel where you can click, and for the price of a monthly fancy schmancy cup of coffee, you will get that perk. And you will also get an invite to our private Facebook group, which I have to be totally honest with you guys, you know, I have not been very active in, and I sincerely apologize. But it is there for members if you'd like to ask questions. I do dip in to check in to see if there are questions or any queries. But yeah, it's there for members of this channel if you want to communicate, engage, ask questions, share projects. It's a really wonderful place to be. Consider joining our Ravelry group that is open to everybody. We have a make-along that is currently underway. So there's the Epic Mall, where we're all endeavoring to make something epic by the end of the year. January 1st, 2025 is the deadline, and I'm going to be doing giveaway prizes. So, you know, I will leave all that information in the description box down below, along with everything I mentioned, links to everything that I mentioned in this episode. So it's a lot of information, guys, a lot to get out, but all the information is down below. Do check that avenue out as well. Okay, that said, happy Halloween, happy making, happy haunting, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.